Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
Let's continue discussing David Yeager's book, 10 to 25. The Science of Motivating Young People. This is the 8th part of our interpretation. Advanced knowledge often allows us to explain many things with a basic principle. The core principle of Yeager's book is a single concept, the mentor mindset, which combines high standards and high support. And we have already used this principle to solve many issues in youth development. In this session, we will focus on 3 seemingly unrelated issues: autism, imposter syndrome, and school bullying, which are all hot topics in society and cause distress for many people. How are these related to the mentor mindset? Around 1% of people worldwide have some form of autism. This is a congenital neurodevelopmental disorder that shows symptoms from early childhood and cannot be cured. Autism has 2 key characteristics. One is social impairment. People with autism struggle to understand common forms of indirect communication between people, such as eye contact, facial expressions, and gestures. They prefer direct, straightforward communication. They don't understand jokes or insinuations and can't read subtle emotional or chemical cues from those around them. The second feature is restricted and repetitive behaviors. For example, repeatedly clapping hands or spinning their bodies. Autism leads to fixed behavior patterns. Individuals with autism like habitual routines and are afraid of change, especially when it comes to sensory stimuli such as sounds, lights, and touches from others. Together, these 2 characteristics cause people to perceive individuals with autism as strange and difficult to get along with, making them prone to social rejection. But if we think about it from a different angle, these 2 traits aren't necessarily major flaws. They are just part of who they are, and they don't pose any real obstacle to you, do they? In fact, these 2 characteristics often lead to a strong ability to focus on a very narrow field for a long time. Their interests are highly specialized. And this can be an advantage. Spending so much time thinking about something naturally leads to deeper understanding and memory. Autism often leads to brilliance. Many famous people, including Einstein, Tesla, Turing, and Mozart, exhibited traits of autism. We don't need to elaborate further. From an evolutionary perspective, autism may have persisted in the population precisely because we need people like them. The question is, how do we incorporate individuals with autism into our talent pool? When dealing with children with autism, parents and teachers often try to teach them typical social skills, such as giving more hugs, offering comfort, and explaining things, but the results are limited. If they prefer direct communication and enjoy focusing on solving problems, why can't we respect their style? Kevin Stassen, a professor of astrophysics at Vanderbilt University, is a strong advocate for inclusive excellence, which means enabling everyone to showcase their unique talents. Stassen's approach to handling autism provides valuable insights. Stassen's lab has an individual with autism named Dan. Dan not only has social impairments but also emotional issues, to the extent that he cannot tolerate any setbacks. While most people would be okay with making a mistake in coding, Dan would become extremely angry and lose control of his emotions. Dan's area of expertise happens to be programming, which is prone to errors. He was responsible for developing a software platform to help astrophysicists analyze data. Dan was highly skilled, but whenever he made a mistake, he would fly into a rage, sometimes even throwing his computer on the desk. After Dan broke 3 laptops, Stassen bought him a military-grade, drop-resistant computer. No matter how many times you threw it, it wouldn't break. As a result, Dan's software was successful, and it helped the team publish an important paper in Nature. To accommodate Dan, Stassen implemented a rule in the lab. During group meetings, no one was allowed to make jokes, use puns, or display facial expressions. Everything had to be direct, fact-based, and logically coherent so that Dan could understand. Because Dan was afraid of complex environments, Stassen also allowed participants to attend meetings via webcam. The rest of the team found this method quite effective. Their thoughts became clearer too. It turns out that autism can indeed be beneficial for scientific research. I hope that families and colleagues of individuals with autism can learn from Stassen's approach. This is the best form of support. A enforcer mindset favors exclusive excellence, which means setting strict standards and automatically eliminating anyone who doesn't meet them. Success belongs to a small group of people. Inclusive excellence, on the other hand, assumes that talent should not be narrowly defined. You can't just identify talent based on a few standards, and we should try to give everyone a chance to show their potential. Stassen's thinking may be influenced by his personal background. He comes from a Mexican-American family, with his mother being an undocumented immigrant. You should know that there are virtually no Mexican Americans in the field of physics, and even fewer African Americans. The majority are white or Asian. Stassen's success was not easy, so he wants to help other marginalized groups. The primary barrier for African American and Mexican American students in physics is often mathematics. These groups may not excel in math due to poor early educational environments or lack of good teachers. So Stassen thought, what if I remove the math requirements and instead focus on research ability? Let's admit these students and then help them catch up on math once they're enrolled. Would that work? Of course, this isn't about admitting anyone arbitrarily. Stassen organizes academic meetings and invites students to demonstrate their research potential in person. Using this method, he identified a group of students who would have been excluded through conventional channels, including individuals with autism. Now, imagine you are one of these students. In college, others are admitted based on strong academic records, while you were admitted through a special, lower qualification route. In other words, you're being treated as a special case. How would you feel? You'd likely experience strong imposter syndrome. Whether others look at you differently is debatable, but you will certainly view yourself with a sense of difference. You won't feel a sense of belonging to the group. As a result, you're likely to fall into a vicious cycle. Because you perform poorly, you may feel like you don't belong to the group. And because you feel like you don't belong, you're reluctant to ask your peers or professors for help. Because you don't ask for help, your performance will only get worse. You don't need others to exclude you. You've already excluded yourself. And you might eventually leave. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. See, you were right, you don't belong here after all. Society doesn't pay enough attention to this phenomenon. The enforcer mindset would simply say, if you don't belong, then leave. The protector mindset may offer comforting words, saying, don't worry, we all consider you part of the team, but that's easy to say when you're not in the marginalized position. People who feel strongly connected to the group often have difficulty understanding how the marginalized feel. Everyone says, fit in, but how can you fit in if you don't have any status or position within the group? This leads to many problems. Take the issue of school bullying, for example. In China, online discussions about bullying in schools have become widespread, often portraying bullies as powerful and influential individuals, similar to a traditional bully figure. Some parents even say, they'd rather commit a crime than let their child be bullied. I fully support this stance, but we need to better understand bullying behavior. There are two types of bullying. Before 6th grade, bullying is typically not intentional. It usually stems from an inability to control impulses, such as taking food from others directly, which is inappropriate behavior. These bullies are typically children with weak social skills who are eager to make a friend through good behavior. So, this kind of bullying is not a big issue. But from 7th grade to high school graduation, bullying takes on a different nature. Bullies are often individuals with better social skills within the school. Their bullying is deliberate and strategic, aimed at elevating their social status by putting others down. This diagram shows the relationship between social status and bullying behavior. Children with low status and unpopularity will not bully others. They are the ones being bullied. Students who have very high status won't bully others because they don't need to prove themselves. Bullies are those who are somewhat popular but not the most popular. They want to elevate their status further and have a sense of insecurity, always wanting to prove themselves. So, they use tactics like suppressing, mocking, or isolating those with lower social status to assert their dominance, much like nouveau riche people mock others for being poor and flaunt their wealth. Bullies don't need help. They just need to learn some leadership skills. What we need to care about is the students who are being bullied. They are at the bottom of the social circle and desperately need a sense of belonging. Yeager says the most critical factor in building a sense of belonging is believing in the possibility of change and improvement. If you believe the people around you are unchangeable, and that your isolated situation cannot be improved, you will only feel despair and have no choice but to leave. Fortunately, change and improvement are possible. Yeager and his colleagues have developed an intervention protocol that helps students strengthen their sense of belonging. It takes about 30 minutes, during which students are told 3 to 8 stories. Most of these stories are real experiences of former students, but for the best effect, they must be edited. The key is the order in which the points are presented. 1. Struggle is normal. 2. Change is possible. 3. Action steps. 4. The snowball effect. Let's take an example. A well-known physics professor shares her career journey with students. She says, "Although I'm successful now, I've faced existential crises. Once, I had an incredibly important physics exam, and I failed it. I cried because I thought my physics career was over. Struggle is normal. Upon reflection, I realized that, it wasn't that I lacked ability, but rather that I didn't prepare well for that exam. I learned from the failure and changed my study strategy. Change is possible. I started interacting with students who performed well, seeking advice from teachers, and I received help. Action steps. As a result, my performance improved. I realized that, I could succeed and got back on track to becoming a physicist." The snowball effect. Now imagine how you would feel after hearing 8 stories like this. You would strongly believe that you, too, could achieve the same. Yeager's intervention helps students enter a positive feedback loop. Because you gain a little confidence in your ability to belong, you will actively try to make friends, seek help, and embrace challenges. As you make friends, seek help, and embrace challenges, your performance will improve. And because your performance improves, your sense of belonging will grow. That's the effect of the intervention. This research is also reproducible. After just 30 minutes of this ritual, the students in the experimental group performed better than those in the control group 3.5 years later. They reported higher job satisfaction and greater happiness in their 20s. Moreover, the intervention had a significant effect on college, high school, and middle school students, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. It wasn't because they memorized the stories, but because listening to the stories prompted them to actively seek help. If you lack a sense of belonging, don't be afraid to seek help. The reality is, others have gone through the same process. And you will eventually prove yourself. The students in Stassen's astrophysics lab later achieved a true sense of belonging through publishing research papers. When you present at an important physics conference and other physicists eagerly discuss the details of your research, you will naturally feel like one of them. Researchers explained the principle of bullying to students who were bullied. They realized that adolescence is a time when people seek status and respect, so bullying is normal. They learned that bullies often regret their actions as they grow older and seek forgiveness, which means change is possible. They learned how to proactively make friends, and that being temporarily excluded is okay. These are the action steps. They understood that those who initially rejected them would eventually return, and they would find a sense of belonging at school. This is the snowball effect. We have talked about the sense of belonging several times on our channel. In our previous discussions of Dan Ariely's Misbelief and Corey Keyes' Languishing, we touched on belonging. It seems that a sense of belonging is a fundamental human need. When you are deep in an unfamiliar environment, feeling isolated and helpless, what could be more inspiring than a mentor's words, "I see myself in you." To nurture someone, you first need to make them feel like one of us. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.